They told me I had no rights. They said the land didn't belong to me anymore. They said if I tried to stop them, they'd bury me in legal fees until I begged for mercy. So I did something no one expected. I said nothing. I watched quietly as an HOA spent millions of dollars building 96 brand new homes on land they never actually owned. And on the day they took me to court to force me off their property, I stood up and pulled out the deed. Beat. That's when the judge went silent, and the HOA realized they had just made the most expensive mistake of their lives. My name is Evan Carter. I'm not rich, not powerful, not some big real estate mogul. I'm just a guy who inherited land no one else wanted. When my grandfather passed, he left me 42 acres just outside a fast-growing suburban town in Texas. At the time, everyone laughed. No road access, no utilities, no development, just dirt, mesquite trees, and an old rusted fence. But my grandfather always said something strange before he died. Never sell it, Evan. They'll come for it one day. I didn't understand what he meant until 3 years later, when the HOA showed up. One afternoon, a black SUV pulled onto the dirt road near my fence. Out stepped 3 people. A sharply dressed man with a clipboard, a woman wearing sunglasses and heels in the dirt, and another man filming everything on his phone. They introduced themselves as the Cedar Ridge Community Development Association. In other words, an HOA. They explained that a massive housing expansion had been approved by the city, nearly 100 homes, and according to their records, my land was listed as unassigned development overflow, meaning they believed it was already part of the approved project. I told them flat out, this land belongs to me. They smiled. That smile HOA people do when they think you're stupid. The woman said, "Sir, our legal team has already verified ownership. You're mistaken." I told them again, I have the deed. The man with the clipboard didn't even look concerned. He said, "Then you'll want to talk to our attorneys." And just like that, they left. A week later, the letter started. Certified mail, legal language, threats disguised as politeness. They claimed my deed was outdated. My grandfather's estate had lapse claims. The land had been absorbed under a municipal development agreement. They offered me $18,000 for 42 acres. That alone told me everything. Land nearby was selling for $70,000 per acre. I didn't respond, not because I was scared, but because something didn't feel right. So I did what my grandfather always taught me to do. I dug. I went down to the county records office, asked for original plat maps, not digital, not scanned, the old ones. The clerk raised an eyebrow and said, "Nobody asks for those anymore." 3 hours later, we found it, a handwritten boundary correction from 1983. It showed something incredible. The city had approved the development zone, but explicitly excluded my grandfather's land. Why? Because the road easement was never finalized, meaning legally, the city could not absorb the land, ever, unless the owner signed consent. My grandfather never did, and neither had I, which meant something huge. The HOA didn't own the land. The city didn't own the land. Nobody did, except me. Most people ask me this. Why didn't you stop construction? Because I didn't have to. Stopping them would have triggered emergency injunctions. They'd freeze everything. Lawyers would swarm. They'd delay endlessly. Instead, I let them keep going. I watched bulldozers roll in. Concrete poured. Foundations set. Roads paved. Homes framed. Families signed contracts. Millions spent. And I said nothing. Because there's a principle in property law called improvements on land belong to the landowner. If someone builds on your land without permission, they don't gain ownership. They lose it. Everything they built becomes yours. And I knew exactly when to speak. The HOA finally noticed. One of their surveyors flagged a boundary discrepancy. Suddenly, I was served papers. They accused me of trespass, interference with development, bad faith silence. They demanded the court force me to sign over the land. Their filing said, the defendant knowingly allowed construction to proceed. That part was true, but they thought it helped them. It didn't, because silence is not consent. Not in property law. Not in Texas. The courtroom was packed. HOA attorneys on one side, developers behind them, city officials sweating quietly in the back. I walked in alone. No suit, just a folder. The HOA lawyer stood confidently. He showed maps, permits, zoning approvals. Then he looked at me and said, Mr. Carter is attempting to extort an entire community. The judge turned to me. Mr. Carter? I stood, opened my folder, and placed 3 documents on the bench. Original 1983 plat map, county exclusion filing, my grandfather's recorded deed, updated and legally continuous. The courtroom went quiet. The judge leaned forward. He asked the HOA lawyer, Counsel, did your team verify this parcel with the county itself? The lawyer paused, then said the worst possible thing. We relied on municipal development summaries. The judge closed his eyes. That's when I knew. They were finished. The judge ordered an immediate recess. 2 hours later, he returned. His ruling was calm, precise, and devastating. He ruled the HOA had no legal claim to the land. Construction was conducted without owner consent. The land and everything on it belonged to me. 96 homes, roads, sidewalks, utilities, all mine. The HOA tried to argue unjust enrichment. The judge shut it down. You cannot enrich yourself by trespassing. Then came the final blow. He ordered the HOA to pay my legal costs, compensate me for land use, and negotiate purchase, or remove all structures. Remove 96 homes. Developers panicked. Home buyers demanded refunds. The HOA president resigned within 48 hours. The city issued a public apology. 3 weeks later, they came to me quietly, offered $11.2 million. I said no. I countered $18 million. They accepted, because tearing everything down would have cost more. I kept part of the land too. Built my own home right at the entrance, with a sign that reads, Private Property Deed Verified. People think HOAs are powerful. They think paperwork beats people. But there's one thing stronger than any board: the truth, the deed, and patience. Because sometimes the best revenge is letting them finish building their mistake. If you enjoyed this HOA story, hit thumbs up. Subscribe for more real HOA Chaos Bell. And comment below, deed checked, if you think every HOA should be required to do that first.